you very much, and thanks again to Jeff. Talk about brands, you really pulverize us. Okay, so I've changed the nature of my talk a little bit because sitting here listening to the IDF and some of the other people, I realized that I have two big advantages, or maybe three. I'm really not out to promote some kind of startup company. I don't feed people, I don't clothe them. Secondly, I'm in a demographic here where I'm one of the eldest people in the audience. I'm going to be 59 in November. And I'm also a scientist. How many people are scientists by training? Not so many. And how many are 59 or older? Not that many. And you don't want to raise your hands. So, what I want to do in the next 9 minutes is talk about the state of now in terms of the state of was. And then I'll get to serendipity if I have enough time. You see, now is always now. And 50 years ago was also now once, okay? I asked the people in the audience, now please don't yell out. How many of you know what this is and how to use it? Raise your hands very silently. Okay, know what it is and how to use it. Well, Carolyn, if you knew how to use it, you've raised your hand already. Okay, you know the song, I don't know what a slide rule is for? You know, James Taylor covered it. Today, nobody knows what a slide rule is for, but 50 or 100 or 300 years ago, this was state of the art. Okay? Now, I want to tell a brief story, then I'll get into serendipity. When I was born, my parents named me Melvin Rosenberg with a Y. Melvin with a Y Rosenberg. That was terrible. I spent most of my adult life wishing that my name were Tom Jones. And then the internet happened, and Facebook happened. I love Facebook. I have a little bit of trouble twitting and tweeting. On Facebook, I have found my persona. And when you look at Mel Rosenberg, there's two main personas, and one is fictitious, and I'm the other one, the real one. Right? But what were to happen if my name were Tom Jones? And you tried to find me on Facebook, or anywhere for that matter. Even if my name was Tom Gerald Jones, you still would never find me. Am I right? Okay. Mel Rosenberg is easy to find. So because of Ernith, I write a blog. And I wrote a blog called What's in the Name? A Rosenberg by any other name would smell as sweet. And I wrote about the difficulty of being named Bob Brown or Tom Jones in the modern, real world. Right? And how lucky I am to have been named Melvin Rosenberg with a Y, anybody can find me. But this story takes the cake, and I've changed my talk because of the IDF. This is a sad story. I went to school with a guy named Hani Shukrala. Write this down, tweet. Hani, search Hani, H-A-N-I, Shukrala, S-H-U-K-R-A-L-L-A-H. I went to school with this guy. He was the son of the Egyptian ambassador to Canada. And in the 1960s, we had vehement arguments about Israel, the Six-Day War, Deir Yassin. Most of you were not born before any of these events. Then I came to Israel 40 years ago, and he vanished from my life. A year ago, I get an email from one of my high school buddies. Hey Mel, how you doing? Did you know that when we studied with Vijay Rao, he became a vice president of Sony? And we studied with another guy who became deputy minister of the Department of Defense of Canada. And what about Hani Shukrala? He says, Mel, you're not going to believe this. Hani is the managing editor of El Aharam. Check it out. Check it out. So I tried to find Hani Shukrala. Now, finding him was easy, but getting in touch with him was difficult. I could not find a way because he'd been fired from El Aharam, and only Allah knew where to find him, and I didn't. But I had used his name in my blog. I talked about him in my blog of a name by, I said, Hani Shukrala, there really is only one. 2 weeks later, I get an email from whom? Han, how you doing? And we started the dialogue, which unfortunately has been suspended. We have some hiatus now in our communications. I wanted to phone him but it's very hard to get in touch with him now because of apparently our past activities or lack of which. So I'm not going to go into politics, but if you would like to tweet Hanny, wish him a happy 60th birthday on my behalf and tell him to please phone Mel, I would appreciate that. Which brings me to the last 3 minutes of my talk, which is about serendipity. Now, scientists know what serendipity is. Serendipity is the act of finding something useful by accident and interpreting what is good for it. Okay? Now, I wanted to talk about what social serendipity would be. Okay? But there is no good definition for social serendipity. Well, let's talk about serendipity for a minute. How many people know where the word serendipity came from? Yes, well, you're a clever guy. Serendipity came from a letter written 300 years ago. I know this because of people like Bob, who helped me on the internet. But you see, Bob, the whole thing isn't answers.com, it's questions.com. You'd rather have the answers. I'd rather have the questions. So here's the story of serendipity. When I was preparing my talk yesterday, I started reading about serendipity. Serendip is Sri Lanka. And it's a story of these three princes who kept discovering unusual things that they weren't looking for that had certain usefulness. For example, they discovered that a certain camel had walked by, and the camel had only one eye, and among other things, he'd been carrying a woman. Now, how did they find out that he had a woman? Is because the woman got off the camel and urinated. And a day later, one of these princes walked by, stuck his finger in the urine, smelled the urine, he got off on it, and he deduced from that it must be a woman rather than a guy, so I'm deducing that he was a heterosexual. Now, it turns out that the one-eyed camel is not an original story from Serendip. It's actually from the Talmud. And I found that out because I found a blog of some lady who likes the Talmud. And there's a story in the Talmud about a one-eyed camel who walked down the street and chewed the grass only on one side. It's in Sanhedrin, David. Look it up. In Sanhedrin, the Talmud, she chewed the grass only on one side of the road. The same lady who wrote the blog of the Talmud also copied the story from National Geographic of the Hadza people. The Hadza people are a primitive people that I was very excited to read about because I made a living for many years smelling people. Not only urine, but primarily mouths, underarms, feet, and other parts of the anatomy. Until one day, I realized how crazy it was to make a living smelling people. So now I do it for free. So here I am talking to you about serendipity. And I find about this prince from Serendip who stuck his finger and smelled urine. And then this lady who blogged about the Talmud and also blogged about the Hadza people. Now the Hadza people, the guys of the Hadza tribe, these are people that do not shower. And I've often wondered, because I invent deodorants and things like that, is most of civilization is based on communities that did not shower. The Hadza people like their woman to go months without showers. So that is a brief venture into the world of serendipity in less than 10 minutes. I have not defined what social serendipity is, except to say that it's what you're not looking for, Bob. Okay? So it's gettingthepeculiaranswers.com. Thank you very much.